is Piper's Class. I'm David Bowles, and with me is...
I'm Erika Meza, and I'm sending hellos from London all the way to Washington.
And I'm here in deep South Texas. And we're just delighted about these wonderful questions that you've sent our way. And we're going to answer a couple of them and hope that you enjoy what we have to say. So the first question that I want to address is from Addie, who asks, why did you write Spanish words if not everyone speaks Spanish? That's a really good question. One of the cool things about English that a lot of people may not know is that it's full of words from other languages. And a lot of books that you read, especially as you get older, will on top of that have words from Latin and Greek and French just kind of thrown in. And there's kind of an expectation from some writers that people just from context figure out the meaning of these words that are kind of cool or that have a special kind of meaning for a particular field or job or whatever. And so to me, just on the level of, you know, putting words in a book, I don't think that it's too much to ask for people to have to handle a word or two in Spanish. But that's just kind of like an explanation of why I don't think it's a bad idea to put Spanish in books for people who don't speak Spanish. More importantly is that the main character of this book and his community and his friends and family all speak Spanish in addition to English. And to like represent their lives in a way that's real, I have to show them using Spanish. It would be kind of fake if I wrote a story about a boy from the border who's Mexican American with family in Mexico and never have him use any Spanish words. That would take something away from his story and make it less real and less truthful. And so in order to be what we call authentic, to be real and truthful, I had to include the Spanish words. Plus, Spanish is a really cool language, and I want everybody to learn it, so there's that too.
Yeah, and now you've got some words under your sleeve, actually. Now, the second question that we've got here is, why did you call the book My Two Border Towns? And that one comes from Gavin, and it's a very clever observation. Now you've read the book, and so you know the story, and you know that the whole story is happening in the border. Now, for instance, like David's family comes from the border, my family comes from the border as well. And in my particular case, it is the border of Tijuana and San Diego. So my family lives in Tijuana in the Mexican side, and we would often go to San Diego in the way that the boy here goes to Mexico. And for us, it was almost as if both of the cities, both Tijuana and San Diego, were actually our hometowns. The people in Tijuana supported the local baseball team in San Diego, and the people from San Diego would come by to the Mexican side to support the soccer team over there. So it's almost like this belonging to two towns at the same time when you're living in the border, just like you also have knowledge of two languages. So just like you know English and Spanish when you're living at the border, you also kind of have two hometowns, which is pretty cool when you think about it.
It absolutely is. The question from Riley is, why did you want to write this story? Well, I really wanted to write a story, and I love writing lots of stories about living on the border and living in two towns and what people are like here and what my family's experiences have been here. But this particular story I wanted to tell because my wife and I, when we would go across to Mexico to visit friends and family, had begun to notice more and more people living on the bridge. And we started talking to them and finding out the situation they were in. And so I wanted to write about them, but I wanted to do it through the perspective of people who live on the border who see these asylum seekers, these refugees, and wish they could help them and do what they can for them. And then, even though my kids are all grown up now, I tried to imagine what it would have been like for my son or my daughter when they were little, to have interacted with these kids and that are on the bridge, and that's basically how the story came about.
Yep, that's it. And then we've got question number 4, which comes from Quinlan, and he asks, when did the boy and the family move to the US, and how did they find the refugees? Now, I don't think that at any point in the story we address whether they've just arrived to the US or whether they've been living there for a while. So David, I don't know how you thought of them, but yeah, they could very well have been living there for a long time.
Yeah, I've always thought of it as they're definitely probably like second generation. The parents are second generation. Their parents immigrated, and so the father still has relatives living on the other side, cousins and a brother and so forth. But he lives in the US and his wife does too. So the little boy is like, he's the third generation. In my mind, that's the way it is. And they've just encountered the refugees. From the book tells us that the boy met his friend on the bridge 6 months ago. So it's been about 6 months that they've encountered them.
Yeah, and they would probably meet each other like just by chance, because when you look at the book, they are on a bridge where people are walking by. So people can go between the US and Mexico on a car or on a bus or by foot on a pedestrian bridge. And so what would happen in that case is that they would literally be walking and see the people that are camping there who are unable to cross. So it's very likely, and you tend to wait for a long time when you're crossing the border. Yeah. So it's very likely that they would end up chatting and they would end up playing while he was waiting to cross with his dad, and that's how they met.
Absolutely. And sometimes they would be walking instead of driving their car. They would park on the US side. There are big parking lots where you can leave your car and you can walk across. So there would have been opportunities for them to spend time together. We have some questions about illustration, right? There was one from Taylor. How did you think of the illustrations?
Yeah. What happens in publishing is that we get the words first. So the words are written first. David sent along the manuscript. He had already imagined the story, the idea. So he had already written down the text. And then it was a matter for me to try and come up with what I was going to be putting in the page. And also because there are some Spanish words in the book, to try and maybe bring some pictures to explain those Spanish words for those that didn't know any Spanish. So basically, I would just try to come up with it in my head based from memories, because a lot of the places in the book are actually real places in the US or in Mexico. So it'd be a mix of my town with David's town to try and think of, okay, like if they are having breakfast, then I would remember some of the restaurants that I often go to with my mom. And okay, which are the details? What do you usually have? Okay, I'm going to have a lady here making tortillas, which are the like the flat bread that you see made out of corn in the massive comal, in the massive pan. And I'll have them with some limes on table, and maybe there'll be a little virgin on the wall. So it'll just be memories from the kind of stuff that I would have seen growing up. So it was actually a little bit easier in that I didn't have to imagine anything, but rather take up all of my memories and just assemble them together. And there was one last comment from Maverick and Haley that I do want to address. They both seem to be very taken by one character that is in the book that is on a skateboard that doesn't have any legs. So this particular person is actually real. His name is Francisco, Don Francisco. And he is a character who lives in Tijuana and who has to sell candy or I don't know. So he sells different stuff depending on the event, but basically he sells stuff to be able to provide for his family. And he's such an unmistakable character that you guys notice him straight away. And that's why I thought that he had to be a part of the cast of characters we've got in the background. So well done, you guys, for noticing it. But yeah, this man is real, and he lives in Tijuana with his family.
And there are lots of great little Easter eggs like that, little hidden fun things for you to find. So the more you look at those pages, the more you're going to discover lots of really, really cool clues that Erika has sprinkled throughout. So Thank you so much for these wonderful questions. Ms. Piper's third grade class, we really enjoyed them and hope that you've enjoyed our book. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. And shout out to Aiden.